Hello, everyone. My name is Viviana Bastidas Melo. I am a research associate at the University of Cambridge. And today I'm going to introduce the extended abstract titled How to Design AI for Public Value, a Socio-Technical Approach. The submission number is 5049. And the co-authors of this paper are Dr. Kwadwo Oti-Sarpong from the University of Cambridge and Professor Jennifer Schooling at ARU. So today, I'm going to introduce quickly the motivation and problem, the background, the methodology related to the literature review, the findings and the discussions, and finally, the conclusions and future directions for this work. So cities are complex socio-technical systems. They are not just about technology, they are not just about physical infrastructure, they are socio-technical systems. And city managers are required to create public value and deliver socially desirable outcomes for all the stakeholders. So for citizens, for city managers, for all the people involved. So the ambition to create AI systems in cities that solve societal problems, align the city strategy goals, and adhere to ethical standards is not easy. It requires a holistic view of such socio-technical systems to ensure effective view and effective planning, design, but also an effective implementation of those systems. So AI can be applied, but we need to look at these technologies in a different way. Why? We will see in the next slides. So there are different opportunities for AI in cities. We have seen that AI-driven systems are frequently encountered in day-to-day life. So their focus lies primarily on the efficient handling, the storage, the exposition, the utilization of data. The government agencies have started to adopt AI to solve different complex problems in diverse domains, for example, in mobility, in public safety, in water and waste management, in healthcare, in the urban planning, in the city governance, but also in the energy. So if we want to include more, for example, in education, we have some issues, but also we have different opportunities there. But how, like, what is the importance, or what are the implications of the application and the use of AI in cities? So there are different implications. So one of them is that we are constructing and building those systems based on different data. So how is the data, how these algorithms, machine learning algorithms, for example, use that data is an important consideration. The citizens, so how they are involved, how they actively participate to create an environment that is trustworthy, that they can create, that we can create that trust, but also that they can be familiar with the use of AI. So we want to create algorithms that must be transparent as possible, but how we can make them transparent. We want to create systems and outputs that can be easily to explain and to understand why we have these results. So explainability is key, but it's also a big, I think, area that is being addressed from different perspectives. But we know what are the challenges and the limitations that we have, both in terms of the technologies, but also in terms of the people who are managing and trying to address, for example, the interpretability of those systems. Of course, the maintenance of those systems, so it's not just about creating these AI systems and solutions. We also want to know what is happening and how we are going to develop the different solutions based on the deployment of the systems, but also how we can maintain those systems in the future, and the context, what they're saying, the context matters. So each place is different. It has a unique, each place has unique context with their own social norms, values, and the ways of working. So governance is required to balance those opportunities, but also to understand why is the difference and how we can make them standardized or not, if it's required or not. For example, we have seen just the concept of fairness in the different regulations and in the different ethical guidelines that is defined different in different countries, because it really means different for different people in different contexts. So despite these early applications that we have seen in different domains, there are some potential benefits, but there are various ethical and social concerns that impede the adoption of AI technologies, amplified by the increasing risk and the growing number of incidents. For example, we have seen problems with data bias, but also we have seen problems with algorithm errors, discriminatory outcomes, lack of transparency, privacy breaches, and cybersecurity threats. These are a few of the elements and the kind of issues that we have seen associated with AI. So according to recent studies, the application of AI technologies in urban landscapes can lead to harmful bias outcomes. So we have two examples in the screen. Depending on the training data used and the level of human supervision. So we have heard many times that we need human in the loop, but what does it mean really? And how we can make it more operative. So how we can make it that works. So we have the control, so we need to control and embed this transparency and all these principles in the design process. So additionally, AI projects in cities often fail because they focus mainly on technology, but they neglect the complex interdependencies that exist between people. That's the most important component. So we are talking about cities, the public sector. Of course, we are talking about people. We are talking the strategies. We are talking about the policies, the regulations, the processes. But in many, many of these cases where we want to apply these AI technologies, we are talking also about the physical infrastructure. But what are those regulations and what are those AI ethical guidelines and tools? So there are many. So various AI ethical regulations and principles have been introduced to address concerns related to bias, transparency, accountability, fairness, data privacy. And we have heard them many times, right? But it's difficult to move from what we have in these high-level guidelines and to say, look, this is how we can implement those different principles and how these different principles can be implemented in the different systems that we are developing. So the ethical landscape has been evolving and is moving from principles to practice, I was mentioning. So how we can operationalize those with high-level guidelines increasingly being complemented by more specific practical tools. So if we go, for example, to the OECD webpage, which is about trustworthy AI, one of the main topics, the main topic of this data for policy conference this year, we will find about 700 tools for trustworthy AI. However, there is a limited evidence about the formal assessment of those tools for trustworthy AI. So how like people in the cities can use those tools? Do we need something different because we are applying these tools in different contexts? But what does it mean? And who was involved in the design? What were the problems that they were solving? And how it applied to our context or not? These are open questions. So we know that we need to move from the governance through AI technologies to a governance of AI technology. So, however, the governance itself implies many different elements. For example, in place planning, management, operation, and use of AI and the systems needs to move beyond these high-level ethical guidelines and progress toward a more trustworthy process. So how we can do that, and what are the implications? What does it imply? So according to different sources of information, one of them is the United Nations Habitat AI. It's from 2022, but it's a very good reference to just highlight how these elements that I have mentioned before are connected with the design component of the AI systems. So for example, the life cycle of AI system must be designed to uphold, if not enhance, a set of foundational values and principles, including the international agreed upon human rights framework and also the sustainable development goals, as well as the ethical principles such as fairness, privacy, and accountability. This is one of these definitions. Another one is ensuring responsible ethical AI is more than designing systems whose result can be trusted. So it's about the way that we design them, why we design them, and who is involved in the design. So we are moving from that technical perspective where we will see just the technology. We are talking about the why, the motivation, and who is involved, and in which way we design those systems. So how we can address those challenges? So we know that we can use AI to innovate in cities. So we can create digital innovations based on the needs of citizens. And these digital innovations can enable the digital transformation of cities, if we want to call that in that way. So we can transform probably our way of living if we use these digital technologies. And this digital transformation can become a transformation enablement of the cities. However, we are saying that we need to take into account a socio-technical perspective. And in one of our previous journals, publications, we have considered a socio-technical point of view, which understand the creation of public value, that the creation of public value can be delivered and can be generated just if we make it responsibly. But what does it mean that we are responsibly developing new technologies such as AI? We are responsibly using new technologies such as AI in cities. It means that we need to look at, as we said before, on the governance and management to understand how we can achieve these common goals, which may sometimes are different goals for different people. So how we can manage these social aspects and how we can govern those aspects. So we need to consider the ethical and responsible innovation, especially because if we deploy those systems, we need to anticipate and evaluate and manage the societal risk, the impacts and the effects of this application of AI in cities. And of course, we need to consider the digital and technical, so how we generate the data, how we can avoid that we have data bias, or how we can process the data, how we are analyzing, how we are visualizing this data, and finally, how we are sharing this data through different applications by using different technologies. So we have these three dimensions where are centralized with a common objective of public value creation. So we have used this view, this socio-technical view, to create our socio-technical design of AI for public value. And that's one of the central points of this extended abstract, which is looking at what are these dimensions that we need to consider when we are designing socio-technical system based on AI. So we are saying again, so we are at the central element. We have the public value, so we propose a strategy combining the social, so the urban governance and ethics, and the technical, which is the digital technology that can enable designers of AI solutions to plan the development of AI-enabled systems to deliver the social benefits benefits while assessing and mitigating the potential harms. So the extended abstract draws on a socio-technical framework that I showed you before for responsible digital innovation. And the extended abstract shows how these three different elements and these three different dimensions are also related to the public value creation and the urgency that we have to create systems that consider those different elements. So for making more descriptive on what we are trying to do is creating that socio-technical design for AI, looking at how, based on these different perspectives, we can create we can propose a larger socio-technical architecture of AI for public value. So we can see here the four different layers, and the public value creation describes the value oriented features that AI-enabled systems should contribute to the society. And when we are talking about the society, we talk about the people, but also the environment. So we're saying we should have, if we are going to design an AI system for cities, one of the main elements that we need to consider first is asking ourselves about what is the public value and what it means and how we are considering is part of what we have described there. So we have the ethical and responsible innovation layer, and this layer constitutes the social risk, but also constitute the human rights, the ethical principles, the impacts and the effects of implementing and deploying AI-enabled systems. We have also the governance and management layer, and this layer presents strategic and operational components needed to create public value enabled by AI technologies. So we have there the people, the processes, probably we have there also the regulations, which are not many times related to ethical, but for example, regulations for cybersecurity, for data privacy, which are necessarily, and we need to govern and manage and see how we can implement them. Also, additionally to the ones that we saw about ethical and responsible innovation for AI. So we have the digital and technical, which describes the algorithms, the data, of course, the algorithms, models, the applications, and the technology components of AI. So in this extended abstract, what we did was, as we defined these different layers based on the socio-technical perspective, which is already explained in this presentation, we were looking at different articles published in high-quality journals and conferences, and see how in these articles, the authors are proposing the design of the AI systems in cities, and what are the digital architectures that they are proposing. So our review confirms the tendency that, as we see, for example, here in this slide, we have a three-tier architecture for AI guiding chatbots in the public sector. So we have different layers and different components, and somehow some relationships among the different layers. However, what we see in this reference architecture is a high-level ethical and responsible innovation elements. A few digital architecture describes only high-level ethical and responsible innovation elements for delivering trustworthy and ethical systems. So, of course, we have trust and security there, but it's not very easy to understand what are the subcomponents and how we can really ensure that we are creating systems that are trust and secure. So what does it mean? So how we can really make it happen when we are developing those and designing those systems. But as part of the findings, we also have that we are missing social stakeholders. So most of these digital architectures are designed with perspectives of the technical stakeholders in mind. However, the co-design of AI systems with the social stakeholders, for example, citizens and communities, is missing. And we also saw in this review a technical prioritization. So while a few studies deal with data algorithms and public value propositions, they don't provide a deeper insight into the governance and management aspects that in turn affect public value creation. So a few of the studies of the articles that we review following Webster and Watson 22, we found that most of these results are saying what are the different components, and mainly the technical ones, and a few of them are looking at the public value. However, it's defined at the business orientation, with the business orientation, but there is not a connection then with the public value, with the AI system, and how we can ensure that those elements and those big components are connected. So there is still a question there, an open gap on how we can align the public value with the urban AI systems that we are designing. So how we are considering, as I said in the slide before, that for creating the public value, we need to consider the ethics and responsible innovation, the governance and management, and of course, the digital and technical components. So in conclusions, so we have proposed a socio-technical design of AI. So this socio-technical design aims to guide the responsible design and deployment of urban AI that can create public value. We understand that different stakeholders understand also the applications and the solutions and the problems in a different way. So if we have a common architecture where we can describe the elements of these designs, where we can have a common understanding of the systems, the requirements, and also the solutions, it would be very beneficial for everyone. And the socio-technical perspective can help on that direction. We have proposed also the socio-technical architecture as a kind of high-level description of what are the elements that we should consider. And in the future, we want to, as we say in the right side of the slide, to develop an architectural layer conceptualization, looking at the literature review and interviews. We have also to look at the interlayer relationships, understanding. So what does it mean? Like we have the public value there, but we have the ethical and responsible innovation. So how these two are connected, and how then are connected and with governance and management, and how we can connect with the different elements from the digital side. And also we are looking at how we can develop socio-technical modeling tools that can automate, for example, the analysis of the systems that we are developing in order to test them before we develop them. So we can use, for example, semantic analysis, such as different knowledge graphs based on the conceptual models that we can develop, based on this general approach, general socio-technical approach that we are presenting in this paper. So thank you very much for your attention. That's all. Thank you.